for 19 years, Kayla has hidden in plain sight as the mute daughter of a low-ranking pack member, her silence concealing a dangerous truth. Her voice carries ancient magic that can command wolves with a single word. She's managed to stay invisible until tonight, when Nicholas, the alpha of her pack, hears her whisper and recognizes her as something impossible. Now, as a rival alpha discovers her secret and plots to claim her power for himself, Kayla must decide whether to keep the silence that has protected her or embrace the voice that could either save the pack or destroy everything she loves. 19 years of silence had taught Kayla Howard patience. 19 years of watching, listening, and remaining invisible among the Northern Ridge pack. 19 years of pretending to be mute, communicating only through nods, gestures, and the occasional scribbled note. 19 years of safety, until tonight. The full moon hung heavy in the night sky, bathing the forest in silver light as Kayla slipped away from the pack's celebratory bonfire. These monthly gatherings always left her anxious. Too many wolves in one place, too many chances for her carefully constructed facade to crack. Her lungs burned for fresh air away from the crowd, away from watchful eyes. She moved silently through the trees, following a path known only to her, one that led to a small clearing beside a brook, her sanctuary, the one place she allowed herself to breathe, to exist without constant vigilance. Kayla knelt beside the brook, watching moonlight dance across the rippling water. Her reflection stared back, dark hair falling in waves around a face too plain to draw attention, gray eyes holding secrets too dangerous to share. The perfect disguise, the forgettable, silent daughter of a low-ranking pack member. Beautiful, isn't it? The deep voice behind her sent ice through her veins. Kayla spun, heart hammering against her ribs. Standing at the edge of the clearing was Nicholas Dixon, Alpha King of the Northern Ridge Pack. Not just any alpha, but the ruler of the largest alliance of packs in the region. His broad shoulders blocked a path back to the celebration, his amber eyes reflecting the moonlight like burning gold. She lowered her gaze immediately and nodded, the proper response of a low-ranking wolf to her alpha. Her mind raced. Why was he here? In 19 years, she'd never once spoken to him directly. He was a distant figure of power and authority, someone she observed from afar but never approached. "I didn't mean to startle you," he said, his voice gentler than she'd expected. "I saw you leave the gathering. It's dangerous to wander alone on a full moon night." Kayla kept her eyes down, nodding again in acknowledgement. She made a small gesture toward the pack grounds, indicating she would return. "No need to rush back on my account." He moved closer, and Caleb fought the urge to step away. "I've noticed you before, you know. Always watching, always silent." Her pulse quickened. He'd noticed her? The entire point of her existence had been to remain unnoticed. "You're Howard's daughter, aren't you? The mute one." She nodded, relief flooding through her. He knew her only as Howard's mute daughter. Her secret was still safe. "May I join you for a moment?" he asked, gesturing to the brook. The request surprised her. Alphas didn't ask permission, they commanded, yet here was the Alpha King waiting for her consent. Kayla hesitated, then nodded again, moving slightly to make room beside the water. Nicholas settled next to her, keeping a respectful distance. Up close, she could see the details she'd only glimpsed from afar, the scar that ran along his jaw, the flecks of green in his amber eyes, the weight of responsibility etched into his features. He was younger than she'd thought, perhaps 30 at most, but his eyes held the wisdom of someone much older. "Sometimes I need to escape too," he said, looking out across the water. "The expectations, the constant vigilance, everyone watching, waiting for me to make a mistake." Kayla stared at him, shocked by the admission. Why would he confide in her, a nobody? "I apologize," he said with a small smile. "I don't usually burden others with my thoughts. There's something about this place, or perhaps it's the company. They say those who don't speak often hear more clearly." She allowed a small smile in return, careful to keep her lips pressed together. For nearly 2 decades, she'd trained herself never to make a sound, not even a laugh or cry. The risk was too great. They sat in companionable silence for a few minutes, watching the water flow by. Kayla felt an unexpected ease in his presence, a dangerous comfort she couldn't afford. A twig snapped in the forest behind them, and Kayla tensed. Nicholas was on his feet in an instant, his posture shifting from relaxed to alert. "Probably just a deer," he said, but his eyes scanned the tree line. "Still, we should head back." He offered his hand to help her up. Kayla hesitated, then placed her palm against him. The moment their skin touched, a jolt of electricity shot up her arm. Nicholas's eyes widened, his grip tightening slightly before he released her. "Did you feel?" He shook his head. "Never mind, let's go." As they walked back toward the celebration, Kayla kept a careful distance between them. That unexpected connection had shaken her more than she wanted to admit. She needed to be more careful around the Alpha King. The noise of the celebration grew louder as they approached. Firelight danced between the trees, and the scent of roasted meat filled the air. Kayla moved to separate from Nicholas, to slip back into the shadows where she belonged, but he stopped her with a gentle touch on her shoulder. "Will you join me?" he asked, nodding toward the gathering. Panic fluttered in her chest. Sitting with the Alpha would draw attention, the very thing she'd spent her life avoiding. She shook her head slightly, gesturing toward a group of lower-ranking pack members where she usually sat. Something like disappointment flickered across his face. Another time, perhaps. Kayla watched him rejoin the celebration, immediately surrounded by his beta, his advisors, and several females vying for his attention. She slipped quietly to her usual place, a spot near enough to observe but far enough to remain forgotten. Howard, her adoptive father, gave her a questioning look as she sat beside him. "Where did you disappear to?" he whispered. Kayla shrugged, her standard response to most questions. "The Alpha left shortly after you did, and you came back together. What happened?" She shook her head slightly, taking out her small notebook to write, "He wanted some time alone, same as me. We happened to cross paths by the brook." Howard didn't look convinced. "Be careful, Kayla. Any attention from those in power is rarely simple." He didn't know how right he was. For 19 years, Kayla had lived with the knowledge that her voice carried an ancient enchantment, a power passed down through a bloodline thought extinct. Her birth mother had explained it the night she'd left Kayla with Howard, a trusted friend. Her voice can command wolves. If anyone discovers what she is, they'll either use her or kill her. Keep her safe, keep her silent. Howard had raised her as his own, supporting her decision to pretend muteness. No one questioned it. Birth defects weren't uncommon among werewolves, the price of their enhanced abilities. Across the fire, Nicholas was deep in conversation with Victor Pearson, Alpha of the Eastern Woods Pack, and a frequent visitor to their territory. Victor's gaze drifted over the gathered wolves, calculating and cold, before landing on Kayla. She quickly looked away, but not before noticing the interest that sparked in his eyes. "You should go home," Howard murmured. "I don't like the way Pearson is looking at you." Kayla nodded, relieved for the excuse to leave. She stood, keeping her head lowered as she slipped away from the gathering. The path to her small cabin on the outskirts of pack territory was familiar enough to navigate in the dark. The night air had cooled, and Kayla wrapped her arms around herself as she walked. Her mind kept returning to that moment by the brook, the strange connection when Nicholas had touched her hand. She'd never felt anything like it before. Lost in thought, she didn't notice the figure following her until she was halfway home. A twig snapped behind her, and the scent of unfamiliar wolf hit her nostrils. Kayla froze, every instinct screaming danger. Well, What's a pretty little thing like you doing out here alone?" The voice was slurred, drunk on moonshine and the full moon's pull. Kayla turned slowly to face a wolf she recognized as one of Victor's entourage, a brute whose name she didn't know. His eyes gleamed with predatory interest as he moved closer.
"You're the mute girl, aren't you? Howard's daughter?" He circled her slowly. "I saw you with the alpha earlier. What makes you so special that he'd waste his time on you?"
Kayla backed away, measuring the distance to her cabin. Too far to run. "Cat got your tongue? Then ha-ha!" He laughed at his own joke. "Or maybe you're saving your voice for someone important." He lunged forward suddenly, grabbing her arm. Kayla twisted, trying to break free, but his grip was like iron. Fear clawed at her throat, and with it came the dangerous urge to speak, to use the one weapon she'd hidden for so long. Let her go. The command cut through the night, carrying all the authority of the Alpha King. The brute released her immediately, spinning to face Nicholas, who stood a few yards away, his eyes glowing with barely contained rage. "Alpha King," the wolf stammered, lowering his gaze, "I was just escorting the female home." "You were assaulting a member of my pack, on my territory." "No, Return to the gathering, now. Victor will deal with you." The wolf slunk away, casting a hateful glance at Kayla before disappearing into the trees. Nicholas turned to her, the anger in his eyes softening to concern. "Are you hurt?" Kayla shook her head, fighting to calm her racing heart. She gestured toward her cabin, then pointed at him with a questioning look.
"Yes, I followed you," he admitted. "Something felt off. I wanted to make sure you got home safely." He hesitated. "May I walk you the rest of the way?" She nodded, grateful for his protection, yet confused by his attention. They walked in silence, the moonlight guiding their way through the trees. When they reached the small cabin she shared with Howard, Kayla turned to thank him with a nod. "I'll have someone watch your cabin tonight, just to be safe." She wanted to tell him it wasn't necessary, that she'd survived 19 years without his protection, but all she could do was shake her head slightly. "I insist," he said, his tone making it clear this wasn't a request. "Victor's wolves have been acting strangely lately. I don't trust them." A gust of wind blew through the clearing, carrying with it the sense of the forest. Kayla shivered, and before she could step away, Nicholas removed his jacket and placed it around her shoulders. The warmth of it enveloped her, along with his scent, pine and smoke, and something uniquely him. It triggered something primal in her wolf, a recognition she didn't understand and couldn't afford to explore. "Keep it," he said when she tried to return it. "You can give it back another time." Their fingers brushed in the exchange, and again that strange current passed between them. This time, Nicholas didn't let go immediately. His eyes searched hers, confused and curious. "Who are you?" he whispered, more to himself than to her. "Why does my wolf—" A howl cut through the night, a summons from the pack grounds. Nicholas released her hand reluctantly. "I have to go. Stay inside, Kayla." It was the first time he'd used her name, and something about the way it sounded in his voice made her stomach flutter. She nodded, clutching his jacket around her shoulders as she watched him disappear into the forest. Only when she was alone did Kayla realize her mistake. In her moment of panic with Victor's wolf, she'd let a small sound escape. A whisper so soft it was barely audible. But Nicholas had been there, and judging by the look in his eyes when he asked who she was, he'd heard her. After 19 years of silence, a single whispered word might destroy everything.
Kayla barely slept that night. Every sound in the forest made her tense, expecting Nicholas to return, demanding answers she couldn't give. By morning, his jacket hung on a peg by the door, a reminder of how close she'd come to exposure. Howard noticed her distraction as she prepared breakfast, moving mechanically around their small kitchen. "Something happened last night," he said, not a question, but a statement. "What aren't you telling me?" Kayla shook her head, offering a reassuring smile that felt stiff on her face. "Kayla," his voice was gentle but firm, "I've raised you since you were a pup. I know when you're afraid." She sighed, retrieving the small notebook she carried for necessary communication. With quick strokes, she wrote, "One of Victor's wolves followed me home. Nicholas intervened." Howard's expression darkened as he read. "Did he hurt you?" She shook her head. "And Nicholas? What did he want?" "He walked me home, said he'd have someone watch the cabin." Howard glanced toward the window, his jaw tight. "This is exactly what we've tried to avoid. Attention." Kayla couldn't disagree. For 19 years, they'd lived carefully on the fringes of pack life. Howard, a widowed Omega with no remarkable skills, had been the perfect guardian, invisible in his own way, beneath notice of those in power. "We should leave," she wrote, the thought that had kept her awake all night. "And go where?" Howard asked, his voice tired. "This is the strongest pack in the region. Outside these borders, we'd be vulnerable." He was right. Lone wolves rarely survived, and smaller packs would ask more questions, notice more details. Here, at least, they'd established a life, roles that kept them safe if unremarkable. "I'll be more careful," she promised. Howard squeezed her shoulder. "We both will." A knock at the door made them both freeze. Howard moved protectively in front of Kayla when he opened it, then relaxed slightly.
"Maya," he greeted the pack's healer, a middle-aged woman with kind eyes and graying hair. "What brings you here?" "Alpha's orders," Maya said, stepping inside with a basket over her arm. "I'm to check on Kayla after last night's incident." Kayla exchanged a worried glance with Howard. The Alpha had sent his healer to their home? This was unprecedented attention. "She's fine," Howard said quickly, just a little shaken. Maya smiled gently. "I'll be the judge of that." She turned to Kayla. "May I examine you, dear, just to be sure there are no injuries?" Reluctantly, Kayla nodded. Maya led her to the small sitting area and checked her arms where the wolf had grabbed her, making notes of the faint bruises forming. Her touch was gentle, her manner professional. "You'll be fine," she concluded. "Some arnica for the bruising and rest." She hesitated, then added, "The Alpha was quite concerned. I've never seen him so angry as when he returned to the gathering last night." Howard cleared his throat. "Please thank the Alpha for his concern, but it's unnecessary. We don't want to trouble him further." Maya gave him a curious look. "It's no trouble." Actually, she reached into her basket and pulled out a sealed note. "He asked me to deliver this to Kayla." Kayla stared at the folded paper, her pulse quickening. A personal message from the Alpha? She took it with trembling fingers. "I'll leave you to rest," Maya said, gathering her things. "Send word if you need anything." After the healer left, Howard turned to Kayla, his expression troubled. "What does it say?" Kayla broke the seal and unfolded the note. The handwriting was strong and precise. "Kayla, I hope this finds you well after last night's unpleasantness. Victor has been informed of his wolf's behavior and has promised appropriate punishment. I would like to speak with you at your convenience. There are matters I wish to discuss. If you are comfortable, please come to the pack house this afternoon. If you prefer not to speak with me, I understand, though I hope you will reconsider. Nicholas." She handed the note to Howard, whose frown deepened as he read. "You can't go," he said immediately. "It's too dangerous." Kayla took back the note, reading it again. "If you prefer not to speak with me." The wording sent a chill through her. Did he know? Had he heard her whisper last night?
She picked up her notebook. If I don't go, it will look suspicious. And if you do go, he might discover what you are. Howard countered. We can say you're still unwell from last night. Kayla shook her head. Then he might come here again. Better to meet him on his terms and learn what he wants. Howard paced the small cabin, agitated. This is my fault. I should have been more vigilant last night, walked you home myself. It's not your fault, she wrote. But I need to handle this carefully. You need to handle this not at all, Howard insisted. Let me go in your place. Explain that you're indisposed. Kayla considered this, then shook her head again. If he specifically wants to see me, sending you will only raise more questions. The argument continued through the morning, but in the end they both knew Kayla was right. Refusing the Alpha's request would draw more attention than complying. By early afternoon, she had changed into her best dress, a simple blue garment saved for special occasions, and braided her dark hair. Howard insisted on accompanying her to the pack house, a sprawling structure at the center of their territory. As they approached, Kayla's steps slowed. She'd never been inside before, had only seen it from a distance during pack gatherings. Guards at the entrance nodded respectfully to Howard. The Alpha is expecting you, one said, leading them through a grand entrance hall and into a study lined with books. Nicholas stood by a large window, his back to them as they entered. He turned at the sound of the door, his eyes immediately finding Kayla's. Thank you for coming, he said, then noticed Howard. I had hoped to speak with Kayla alone. Howard stiffened. As her father, I understand your concern, Nicholas interrupted smoothly. But I assure you, she'll be perfectly safe. This is a private matter. For a tense moment, Howard didn't move. Then Kayla touched his arm gently and nodded, silently telling him it was okay. I'll wait outside, Howard conceded reluctantly. When the door closed behind him, Nicholas gestured to a comfortable chair. Please, sit. Kayla perched on the edge of the seat, her notebook clutched in her hands. Nicholas didn't sit behind the imposing desk, but took the chair adjacent to hers, close enough to converse, but not so close as to make her uncomfortable. I wanted to check on you personally, he began. Last night was unsettling. Kayla nodded in agreement, her eyes wary. But that's not the only reason I asked you here. He leaned forward slightly. Kayla, last night, when that wolf grabbed you, I heard something. Her heart stuttered in her chest, but she kept her expression neutral, head tilted in confusion. A sound, he continued, watching her carefully. Your voice. Kayla shook her head firmly, reaching for her notebook. She wrote quickly, I'm mute, born this way. Nicholas read her note, then looked back at her face. Are you? His voice was gentle, not accusing. Because I distinctly heard you whisper something, just one word. Don't. She wrote again. You misheard. Maybe the wind or another wolf nearby? Perhaps, he conceded, though his expression suggested he didn't believe it. But something else happened last night that I can't explain. Kayla tensed, waiting. When I touched your hand, he said, my wolf reacted in a way I've never experienced before. He paused, as if choosing his words carefully. It recognized you, Kayla, not as Howard's daughter, not as a pack member, but as something more. She stared at him, genuine confusion mixing with her fear now. What was he talking about? I've been Alpha for 7 years. In that time, I've met thousands of wolves from dozens of packs. Never once has my wolf responded like that. He studied her face. Do you know what that might mean? Kayla shook her head honestly. This was something her mother had never mentioned, a complication she hadn't prepared for. Nicholas sighed, running a hand through his dark hair. I've heard stories, legends really, about wolves whose voices carried power, descendants of the first Luna, blessed or cursed with the ability to command with a word. Ice flooded Kayla's veins. How did he know? Those stories were ancient, nearly forgotten. They were hunted to extinction centuries ago, or so the history books claim. His amber eyes held hers, waiting for a reaction. Kayla kept her face carefully blank as she wrote, "Interesting story. Why tell me?" Nicholas laughed softly without humor. "You're very good at this, you know. The facade. How long have you been pretending to be mute, Kayla?" Her hand trembled as she wrote, "I'm not pretending." "Aren't you?" he challenged gently. "My wolf says otherwise. It sensed something in you last night. Something hidden." He reached for her hand, and Kayla pulled back instinctively. Nicholas didn't push, instead leaning back in his chair. "I'm not going to force you to speak. I just want to understand why you're hiding, and why my wolf calls you Luna." Kayla's head snapped up at that, genuine shock breaking through her careful control. Luna? The mate of an alpha, his equal, his partner in leading the pack. That was impossible. She wrote rapidly, "There's a mistake. I'm not anyone special. Just an Omega's daughter." "Are you?" Nicholas asked quietly. "Because Howard isn't your biological father, is he?" The question hit like a physical blow. How could he know that? They'd been so careful. Howard had claimed her as his own when she was barely a year old, after her mother had fled. Before she could respond, a commotion outside the study door interrupted them. It burst open to reveal Victor Pearson, alpha of the Eastern Woods Pack, with two of his guards. "Nicholas," Victor greeted, his smile not reaching his cold eyes, "I apologize for the interruption, but I needed to speak with you urgently." Nicholas stood, positioning himself slightly in front of Kayla. "This isn't a good time, Victor." Victor's gaze moved to Kayla, lingering in a way that made her skin crawl. "So, this is the girl my wolf bothered last night. I came to offer my personal apologies." He took a step toward her. "He's been appropriately punished, I assure you." Nicholas's posture shifted subtly, his wolf close to the surface. "Your apology is noted. Now, if you'll excuse us—" "Actually," interrupted Victor, "I'm also here on other business. There have been concerning reports from my territory, rumors of ancient bloodlines resurfacing. Bloodlines thought extinct." The tension in the room thickened. Kayla felt trapped between the two alphas, her secret hanging by a thread. "We can discuss this later," Nicholas said, his voice hard. "Of course. I wouldn't want to disturb your meeting." He inclined his head toward Kayla. "A pleasure to meet you properly, my dear. Perhaps we'll speak again soon." After Victor and his guards left, Nicholas closed the door firmly and turned to Kayla, his expression grave. "You're in danger." She already knew that, had known it her entire life, but something in Nicholas's tone suggested a new, imminent threat. Victor didn't come here by chance. He's hunting for something, or someone. He moved closer, lowering his voice. "I think he suspects what you are." Kayla's pulse raced. She had to leave, had to warn Howard. "I can protect you," Nicholas said, reading her panic, "but I need you to trust me. I need the truth." She shook her head, standing abruptly. She had to get out, had to think. "Kayla." His voice stopped her as she reached for the door. "Whatever you're hiding, whatever you're afraid of, I won't let anyone harm you. I promise." She turned back, studying his face. He seemed sincere, but she'd survived by trusting no one except Howard. 19 years of silence couldn't be broken on a promise and instinct. Kayla opened her notebook one last time. "I need time." Nicholas nodded slowly. "All right, but be careful. Don't go anywhere alone and stay close to the main pack grounds." He hesitated, then added, "Victor will be watching you now." As she left the study, Howard immediately moved to her side, his face lined with worry. What happened? What did he want? Kayla couldn't answer, not here, where others might see. She shook her head slightly, indicating they should wait until they were home. As they walked through the pack grounds, she felt eyes on her, not just Nicholas's, watching from the pack house window, but others, Victor's wolves scattered among their own pack members, observing, weeding. Her secret was unraveling, thread by thread, and she had no idea who to trust. That evening, a package arrived at Kayla and Howard's cabin. The young wolf who delivered it shifted nervously on their doorstep. "From the Alpha," he explained, handing Howard a small wooden box. "For Kayla." Howard thanked him and closed the door, examining the box warily before passing it to Kayla. "What game is he playing?" Kayla had no answer. She opened the box carefully, revealing a beautiful leather-bound notebook with her initials embossed on the cover, along with a set of fine writing implements. Nestled beside them was a folded note. "For easier communication, I meant what I said. Await until you're ready. Nicholas." She showed Howard the note, watching his expression shift from suspicion to confusion. "He knows, doesn't he?" Howard said quietly. Kayla nodded slowly, retrieving her old notebook to write. "He heard me whisper last night. He knows I'm not truly mute." Howard sank into a chair, his face ashen. After all these years? What else did he say? He mentioned legends about wolves whose voices held power, said his wolf recognized me as something special. Howard's eyes widened. "Recognized you? How?" Kayla hesitated, then wrote the word that had been echoing in her mind since her meeting with Nicholas. "Luna." "Luna?" Howard repeated, disbelief in his voice. "That's impossible, unless—" He trailed off, lost in thought. "Unless what?" Kayla prompted. Howard shook his head. "Your mother never said anything about royal blood. She only warned about your voice." Royal blood? The thought had never occurred to Kayla. She'd always assumed her power was a curse, a dangerous anomaly that had her bloodline hunted to near extinction. Could it be something more? "Victor knows something too," she wrote. "He interrupted our meeting, talked about extinct bloodlines." Howard stood suddenly. "We need to leave, tonight. It's not safe anymore." Kayla caught his arm, shaking her head firmly. "Where would we go? Victor would follow us. At least here, Nicholas seems to want to protect me." "Can we trust him?" Howard asked, the question that had been haunting Kayla all day. She didn't know. Their alpha was powerful, commanding respect across multiple territories. If he wanted to use her voice as a weapon, who could stop him? Yet something about him felt different. The way he'd asked rather than demanded, the respect he'd shown for her silence. "I don't know," she wrote honestly, but running now would confirm their suspicions. They debated late into the night, weighing options that all seemed equally dangerous. In the end, they decided to wait, to watch, to be even more vigilant than before. Kayla would continue her silence and avoid both Nicholas and Victor as much as possible. But fate had other plans. The next morning, a formal announcement spread through the pack. The Alpha would host a gathering for the full moon 3 nights hence. Attendance was mandatory for all pack members. "A trap," Howard muttered when they heard the news. "He's forcing you into the open." Kayla wasn't sure. The full moon gathering was a regular occurrence, though usually less formal than what Nicholas had announced. Still, the timing was suspicious. For the next 2 days, Kayla barely left the cabin, sending Howard for necessary supplies. She spent hours staring at the new notebook Nicholas had given her, running her fingers over the smooth leather, wondering at his intentions. On the afternoon before the gathering, another knock came at their door. This time, it was Nicholas's beta, Marcus, a stern-faced wolf with a warrior's build. "The Alpha requests Kayla's presence," he stated when Howard opened the door. "Immediately." Howard positioned himself in the doorway. "She's unwell." Marcus's expression didn't change. The Alpha was very clear. "This is not optional." Kayla appeared behind Howard, touching his shoulder to indicate she would go. Whatever Nicholas wanted, refusing would only escalate the situation. "I'm coming with her," Howard insisted. The Alpha's instructions were for Kayla alone. However, you may accompany her to the pack house. The walk to the pack house was tense, Marcus leading the way, while Howard kept close to Kayla's side. Pack members watched curiously as they passed, whispering among themselves. Kayla kept her head down, anxiety building with each step. At the pack house, Marcus led them to a different room than before, a smaller, more private study at the back of the building. Howard was again asked to wait outside, and though he protested, Kayla's gentle insistence finally convinced him. When she entered, Nicholas wasn't alone. An elderly woman sat in a chair by the fireplace, her silver hair elegantly styled, her posture regal despite her age. She turned as Kayla entered, fixing her with sharp blue eyes that missed nothing. "Grandmother," Nicholas said, "this is Kayla." Grandmother. This must be the former Luna, Nicholas's predecessor's mate, and a powerful figure in her own right. Kayla lowered her gaze respectfully, cursing silently at this new complication. "Come closer, child," the older woman said, her voice surprisingly strong. "Let me see you properly." Kayla approached cautiously, stopping a few feet away. The woman studied her intently, then glanced at Nicholas. "You were right," she said simply. "I can sense it." Nicholas nodded, his expression unreadable. "Kayla, my grandmother has served as Luna for over 40 years. Before that, she was the pack's historian and keeper of our oldest records." The elderly woman smiled slightly. "What my grandson is failing to mention is that I'm also quite gifted at recognizing bloodlines." She gestured to a chair beside her. "Please, sit. We have much to discuss." Kayla remained standing, looking questioningly at Nicholas. "You can trust her," he said quietly. "If anyone can help us understand what's happening, it's her." Reluctantly, Kayla sat, taking out the new notebook Nicholas had given her. "That won't be necessary," the old woman said. "Not here. This room is sealed against eavesdropping, an ancient protection spell renewed with each generation. What is said here cannot be heard beyond these walls." Kayla still hesitated, years of caution not easily set aside. Nicholas moved closer, his voice gentle. "Kayla, Victor is gathering allies. Whatever he suspects about you has him mobilizing his pack. I need to know what we're facing."
Fear and confusion warred within her. How had her carefully constructed life unraveled so quickly? 3 days ago she'd been invisible. Now she sat before the Alpha and his grandmother, her secrets laid bare. "Perhaps I should begin," the old woman said, noting Kayla's internal struggle. "My name is Diana Dixon, former Luna of the Northern Ridge Pack. In my youth, I studied our most ancient histories, including the legend of the Voice." Kayla stiffened at the term. "Ah," Diana nodded. "You know it. Good. The legends speak of a bloodline blessed by the moon goddess herself, wolves whose voices carried her authority. They could command with a word, bend others to their will." "Dangerous power," Nicholas added quietly, "one that made them both revered and feared." "Indeed," Diana continued, "the last known voice was killed 3 centuries ago, or so we believed. The bloodline was thought extinct." Kayla looked between them, still silent. "Child, we're not your enemies. Quite the opposite." She reached out slowly, offering her hand. "May I?" After a moment's hesitation, Kayla placed her hand in Diana's. The older woman closed her eyes, concentrating. "Yes," Diana murmured. "The royal blood of the Northern Moon Pack. I can feel it." She opened her eyes, looking directly at Kayla. "You're a descendant of Arya Moonwhisper, the last known voice." Kayla pulled her hand back, shock evident in her expression. Her mother had never mentioned royal blood, or a name,
only the danger of her voice. The Northern Moon Pack was destroyed centuries ago, Nicholas explained. Their territory absorbed by surrounding packs, their bloodline hunted to extinction. Or so we thought. Diana leaned forward. Your silence has been your protection, hasn't it? A clever strategy. The direct question demanded a response. Kayla looked toward the door, thinking of Howard waiting outside, of the safety they'd built through years of caution. He can't hear us, Nicholas reminded her gently. No one can. Kayla took a deep breath, feeling the weight of 19 years of silence pressing down on her. Then, barely audible, she whispered, Yes. The sound of her voice, so rarely used that it felt foreign to her own ears, seemed to fill the room. Nicholas's eyes widened slightly, though whether at the confirmation or simply at hearing her speak, she couldn't tell. How long? Diana asked. Since I was 5, Kayla replied, her voice rough from disuse. When my mother left me with Howard. And the power? Your voice? Diana pressed. Kayla glanced at Nicholas, then back to Diana. I don't know its full extent. I've never really used it. Wise, Diana nodded. But Victor Pearson suspects. Someone must have talked. An old story, a rumor. He's been researching extinct bloodlines for months, visiting the oldest pack libraries. What does he want with me? Kayla asked, though she feared she knew the answer. Power, Nicholas said grimly. A voice under his control would give him dominion over every wolf in the region. No alpha could stand against him. The reality of her situation crashed down on Kayla. She wasn't just in danger of exposure, she was at the center of a power struggle between the two of the strongest alphas in the territory. There's more, Diana said, looking at her grandson. Tell her what your wolf senses. Nicholas's jaw tightened. My wolf recognizes you as Luna. Not just any Luna, my true mate. Kayla stared at him, disbelief evident in her expression. That's impossible. Is it? Diana asked. The moon goddess works in patterns, child. The voice bloodline and the Dixon line were always meant to unite, history repeating itself, bringing balance. I don't understand, Kayla said. The first voice was also the first Luna, mated to the first Alpha King. Their union brought peace to the warring packs, established the alliances we maintain to this day. She smiled slightly, until their descendants grew arrogant, feared the voice would control rather than guide. The bloodlines separated, and eventually the voice line was hunted nearly to extinction. Kayla's mind raced with implications. Even if that's true, I can't be Luna. I've spent my life hiding, pretending to be someone I'm not. Perhaps that's exactly why you're suited for it, Nicholas said quietly. You understand power and its dangers better than most. She shook her head. Victor will never allow it. If he believes I am the voice, he'll try to claim you himself, or eliminate you. Either way, you need protection.
Howard cannot protect you from an alpha, Nicholas interrupted gently. Not even from Victor's wolves, as we saw the other night. What do you suggest? Kayla asked, tension evident in her voice. Diana and Nicholas exchanged glances. A public acknowledgement, Diana said. At tomorrow's gathering, Nicholas recognizes you as his true mate, placing you under his protection and the protection of pack law. No, Kayla said immediately. I won't use my voice. I won't confirm what Victor suspects. You wouldn't need to, Nicholas assured her. The mate bond itself would be enough. Victor wouldn't dare challenge it directly. And if he does? Kayla asked. Nicholas's expression hardened. Then I'll deal with him.
You're asking me to trust you completely, to abandon the safety I've built for myself based on a feeling your wolf has. I'm asking you to consider it, Nicholas corrected, to think about what Victor might do if he finds you first. Whether you accept me as your mate or not, you need allies. Kayla stood, needing space to think. I need to speak with Howard. He's protected me all these years. I won't make this decision without him. Diana nodded approvingly. Loyalty, a good quality in Aluna. I haven't agreed to anything, Kayla reminded her. The gathering is tomorrow night, Nicholas said. Think carefully, Kayla. Victor already watches you. After today, he'll be even more suspicious. Why? Because you've been summoned to the pack house twice in 3 days. The mute daughter of an Omega suddenly of interest to the Alpha King? People talk. He was right, of course. Even now, she could imagine the whispers spreading through the pack. I'll send guards to watch your cabin tonight, Nicholas offered. No, Kayla said. That would only confirm I'm someone worth protecting. She moved toward the door, then paused. Thank you for the warning, but I need time. Of course, Nicholas agreed, though concern shadowed his eyes. May I walk you out? Kayla nodded, then turned to Diana. It was an honor to meet you, Elder. The old woman smiled. The honor is mine, voice of the northern moon. I hope we speak again soon. Outside the study, Howard jumped to his feet when the door opened. Howard, are you all right? She nodded, though she knew her expression betrayed her turmoil. I'll have Marcus escort you home, Nicholas said, then added quietly to Kayla. Remember what we discussed. You're troubled, Diana observed once they were alone. Nicholas moved to the window, watching Kayla and Howard until they disappeared from view. Is it that obvious? To me, yes. Diana joined him at the window. What concerns you? The mate bond, he admitted. It grows stronger each time I'm near her. My wolf... He paused, struggling to articulate the conflicting instincts warring within him. My wolf wants to claim her immediately, to protect what is ours. But I fear what that might mean. Because of her voice? Partly. Nicholas turned from the window. If the legends are true, if she can command wolves with a word, what happens if she commands me, or the pack? Diana's expression softened. You fear losing control. I fear putting the pack at risk, Nicholas corrected. My duty is to protect them. How can I do that if I bring potential danger into our midst? And yet your wolf recognizes her as mate. Yes. Nicholas ran his hand through his hair in frustration. How can something feel so right and so dangerous at the same time? Diana rested a hand on his arm. Perhaps that's the point, Nicholas. For generations, alphas have ruled through strength alone. Perhaps the moon goddess is reminding us that true leadership requires balance, strength tempered by wisdom, power checked by compassion. And if I'm wrong, if Victor is right and her voice is simply a weapon to be wielded, then you would not be feeling this conflict, Diana said simply. You would see only the advantage, as Victor does. The fact that you worry about the pack's welfare, as in your wolf calls for its mate, tells me you are exactly the alpha who should be bonded to a voice. Nicholas wasn't entirely convinced, but his grandmother's words gave him something to consider. As alpha, he'd always carried the weight of responsibility alone. The idea of sharing that burden, of true partnership rather than domination, was both appealing and terrifying. Give her time, Diana advised, and give yourself permission to trust what your wolf already knows. The walk home was silent, Howard visibly restraining his questions until they were alone. Marcus left them at their door with a respectful nod. The moment they were inside, Howard turned to her. What happened? What did they want? Kayla hesitated, then made a decision. She'd kept her silence for 19 years, but here, with the man who'd raised her as his own, she could speak the truth. They know what I am, she said softly. Howard froze at the sound of her voice, his eyes widening. Kayla. It's safe here, she assured him, "just between us." He sank into a chair, overcome. "I haven't heard your voice since you were a child." Kayla sat across from him. "The Alpha's grandmother recognized my bloodline. She called me a descendant of the Northern Moon Pack." "The Northern Moon?" Howard paled. "Those are just stories, legends from before the Great War." "Apparently not," Kayla said, "and Victor Pearson is hunting for what I am. They think he wants to use my voice as a weapon." Howard's expression hardened. "We should have left years ago, gone farther, hidden better." "We did what we could," Kayla said gently. "But now I have a choice to make." She explained everything, Diana's revelations about her bloodline, Nicholas's claim that his wolf recognized her as Luna, the proposal to announce their mate bond at tomorrow's gathering. "It could be a trap, using you to draw out Victor, or using the mate bond to control you themselves." "I considered that," Kayla admitted, "but Nicholas could have exposed me already if that was his plan. Instead, he's offering protection. At what price? Becoming Luna? Using your voice at his command?" The question struck at Kayla's deepest fear. Would Nicholas, like Victor, see her as a weapon rather than a person? "I don't know him well enough to answer that," she said honestly, "but I know Victor is dangerous. If he's hunting for the voice, he won't stop until he finds me." Howard stood up, pacing the small cabin. "We could run tonight, head north, beyond the territories, and live as rogues. How long before we're hunted down? At least here, within the pack, there's some protection." "Protection that failed when Victor's wolf followed you home," Howard reminded her. "Nicholas stopped him," Kayla countered. Howard studied her face. "You trust him?" I don't know," she admitted, "but my instincts say he's different." "Instincts can be influenced by mate bonds," Howard said gently. "If he truly is your mate, your judgment might be clouded." Kayla hadn't considered that. Was her willingness to trust Nicholas influenced by some primal connection she didn't fully understand? "What should I do?" she asked, feeling lost. Howard's expression softened. "I've protected you as best I could, Kayla. But perhaps your mother always knew this day would come. Perhaps this is why she left you with me, not just to hide you, but to prepare you for when hiding was no longer possible." "You think I should accept Nicholas's offer?" "I think you should follow your heart," Howard said, "and remember that your voice is yours to command, not anyone else's." They talked late into the night, weighing risks and possibilities. By morning, Kayla had made her decision. The day of the full moon gathering passed in a blur of preparation. Traditionally, these events were celebrations, feasting, music, pack bonding beneath the full moon's light, but tonight felt different. Tension hung in the air as pack members prepared, whispers following Kayla whenever she ventured out. Word had spread about her meetings with the Alpha. Speculation ran wild. Was she in trouble? Was there something special about the quiet girl no one had noticed before? Even Howard faced curious glances and pointed questions he deftly avoided. As evening approached, Kayla dressed with care in her finest clothes, a simple dress of deep blue that Howard had given her for her last birthday. She braided her dark hair, securing it with silver pins that had belonged to her mother, the only items she'd left behind. "You look beautiful," Howard said when she emerged from her room. "Like your mother." Kayla smiled sadly. "I wish I remembered her better." "She would be proud of you," he assured her, "whatever you decide tonight." The walk to the gathering grounds felt like a march to her own execution. Each step brought her closer to a decision that would change her life forever. Pack members streamed toward the large clearing, where bonfires already blazed. Tables laden with food and drink stretched in long lines. At the edge of the clearing, Kayla paused, scanning the crowd. Nicholas stood near the main fire, resplendent in formal pack attire that marked him as Alpha King. Their eyes met across the distance, and something passed between them, a question from him, an answer not yet formed from her. She was about to step forward when a hand caught her arm. Turning, she found herself face to face with Victor Pearson. "Kayla, isn't it?" he said, his voice silky. "Howard's daughter. We weren't properly introduced the other day." Howard moved protectively to her side. "Alpha Pearson." Victor's cold eyes never left Kayla's face. "I've been hoping to speak with you. There's a matter of great interest to me that I believe you might help with." Kayla kept her expression neutral, giving a small shrug of confusion. "No need for pretense," Victor said, lowering his voice. "I know what you are, what your voice can do." Howard stepped between them. "My daughter is mute, Alpha. Whatever you think you know—" "Step aside, Omega," Victor commanded, his tone hardening. "This doesn't concern you." "She is my daughter. It very much concerns me." Victor's eyes flashed dangerously. "Not by blood. We both know that." The confrontation was drawing attention. Pack members nearby slowed, watching curiously. In the distance, Kayla saw Nicholas notice the altercation, his posture immediately alert. "I'm offering you an opportunity," Victor continued, addressing Kayla again. "Your bloodline is rare, precious. Under my protection, you would want for nothing." Kayla shook her head firmly, pulling her notebook from her pocket. She wrote quickly, "I don't know what you're talking about. Please leave us alone." Victor read her note and laughed softly. "Still maintaining the charade. Impressive dedication." He leaned closer. "But unnecessary. I've researched your bloodline extensively. The voice of the Northern Moon Pack. Imagine what we could accomplish together." Nicholas appeared beside them, his presence commanding immediate respect. "Victor, I believe you're disturbing my guests." "Just becoming acquainted with an intriguing young wolf," Victor replied smoothly. "No disturbance intended. Kayla and Howard are under my protection. Any matters concerning them should be addressed to me directly." The two alphas stared at each other, power radiating between them like heat from the nearby fires. Pack members backed away, sensing the dangerous undercurrent. "Of course," Victor finally conceded, though his smile remained cold. "We'll continue our discussion another time, Kayla." As he walked away, Nicholas turned to Kayla. "Are you all right?" She nodded, though her heart raced with fear and anger. Victor knew too much, was too confident. How long before he acted on that knowledge? "He won't approach you again tonight, not with the entire pack watching." Howard looked between them. "He knows, doesn't he?" "About Kayla's voice?" Nicholas nodded grimly. "It seems so." He turned to Kayla. "Have you decided?" She hesitated, then gave a single, small nod. Relief washed over Nicholas's face. "Thank you for trusting me." He looked at Howard. "I swear to you I will protect her with my life." "See that you do," Howard replied, his voice thick with emotion. "She's all I have." Nicholas nodded solemnly, then offered his arm to Kayla. "The ceremony begins soon. Will you join me?" Taking a deep breath, Kayla placed her hand on his arm. The touch sent that now familiar current through her, stronger than before. Her wolf stirred within her, recognizing something in him that her human side was still uncertain of. As Nicholas led her toward the center of the gathering, all eyes turned to watch. The mute daughter of an Omega, walking beside the Alpha King, as if she belonged there. Whispers followed them like shadows. Nicholas leaned close. "Are you ready?" Kayla met his gaze, seeing the question behind the question. Was she ready not just for the ceremony, but for everything that would follow? The end of her hiding, the beginning of a new life, one where her voice might finally be heard? "Yes," she whispered, so softly only he could hear. "I'm ready." The full moon gathering fell silent as Nicholas led Kayla to the ceremonial circle at the center of the clearing. Pack members pressed forward, curiosity evident in their expressions. Never in memory had their alpha king singled out a female during a moon ceremony, especially not one as unremarkable as Howard's mute daughter. Nicholas turned to address the assembled pack, his voice carrying across the hushed clearing. "Tonight, under the full moon's witness, I have an announcement to make." His hand found Kayla's, fingers intertwining with hers in a gesture that sent murmurs rippling through the crowd. "The moon goddess has blessed me with a true mate bond." Gasps and exclamations erupted. True mate bonds were rare, sacred connections believed to be formed by the moon goddess herself. For their alpha to claim such a bond, and with Kayla of all people, was unprecedented. "I recognize Kayla Howard as my mate and invite her to stand as Luna of the Northern Ridge Pack." The murmurs grew louder. From the corner of her eye, she could see Victor Pearson watching with calculated interest, his expression revealing nothing of his thoughts. Nicholas turned to face Kayla directly. If she accepts. This was the moment of truth. By pack law, even an alpha couldn't force a mate bond. The female always had the right to accept or reject the claim. All eyes were on Kayla, waiting for her response. How did a supposedly mute wolf accept a mate claim? The question was evident in the curious stares around them. Nicholas had anticipated this. He released her hand and presented her with a small wooden token carved with the pack's symbol, a howling wolf beneath a crescent moon. The traditional acceptance of a mate claim was for the female to take the token and place it over her heart. Kayla's hand trembled slightly as she reached for the token. This simple action would change everything. Once accepted, the mate bond would be acknowledged by pack law. Victor couldn't touch her without directly challenging Nicholas's claim, an act that would require formal combat between alphas. Her fingers closed around the wooden token. She met Nicholas's gaze, finding reassurance in his amber eyes before pressing the token to her heart. A cheer went up from the pack, though Kayla could detect confusion and speculation beneath the celebration. Why her? What had the alpha seen in the silent daughter of an omega? Diana appeared beside them, her silver hair gleaming in the firelight. As former Luna, it was her right to welcome the new Luna-to-be. "The moon goddess blesses this union," she announced, her voice carrying surprising strength. "Let all acknowledge Kayla Howard as future Luna of the Northern Ridge Pack." The traditional response came from the gathered wolves, so witnessed under the full moon's light. From his position near the edge of the circle, Victor stepped forward. Silence fell immediately. By pack law, any wolf could challenge a mate claim if they believed it false or harmful to the pack. Everyone knew what was coming. "Alpha King Nicholas," Victor said formally, "while I would never question your judgment, this announcement comes as a surprise to many." His cold gaze swept over Kayla. "The future Luna is traditionally a wolf of significant standing, one who brings strength to the pack. Are you formally challenging my claim, Alpha Pearson?" Nicholas asked, his voice dangerously calm. Victor smiled thinly. "Not at all. Merely expressing concern for the pack's welfare. After all, what does this female bring to the alliance? What is her value?" The implication was clear. What worth did a mute, low-ranking wolf have as Luna? Before Nicholas could respond, Diana stepped forward. "Her bloodline is her value, Alpha Pearson? One you seem quite interested in." A ripple of surprise moved through the crowd. Bloodline?
What bloodline could Howard's daughter possibly claim? Victor's smile tightened. I wasn't aware the Omega's daughter had any significant lineage. Perhaps that's a discussion for another time, Nicholas intervened smoothly. Tonight is for celebration, not pack politics. But the damage was done. Questions had been planted, suspicions sown. Kayla could feel the weight of the pack's curiosity and doubt.
Of course, Victor conceded. My congratulations to you both. He bowed slightly, the gesture more mocking than respectful, before retreating to his position among his own wolves. The ceremony continued with the traditional elements of the full moon gathering, the alpha's blessing over the pack, the sharing of food and drink, the music and dancing that would last until dawn. But underlying it all was a current of tension and whispered speculation. Howard made his way to Kayla's side as soon as the formal portion ended. "It's done," he said quietly, "for better or worse." Nicholas, who had been speaking with his beta, rejoined them. "Victor won't let this stand without a fight," he warned. He was too calm, too accepting. "What happens now?" Howard asked. "Kayla comes to the pack house," Nicholas replied. "As my mate-to-be, her place is there. You're welcome as well, of course." Howard looked at Kayla questioningly. She nodded, taking out her notebook to write. "It's safer for both of us. Victor knows too much." "There's a full moon run later tonight. Traditionally, newly announced mates lead the pack. Will you join me?" Kayla hesitated. She rarely shifted during pack runs, preferring to remain on the periphery. Her wolf form, unusually small and silver-gray, attracted too much attention. "I'll watch from the pack house," she wrote. Disappointment flickered across Nicholas's face, but he nodded. "As you wish. We should move your belongings tomorrow, but for tonight, the pack house is prepared for your arrival." As the gathering continued around them, Nicholas was called away to address various pack matters. Kayla found herself suddenly surrounded by curious females, all eager to meet their future Luna. "We had no idea the alpha had found his mate," said one, a pretty blonde named Sarah, who served as the pack's head healer after Maya. "How long have you known?" asked another, her tone suggesting she didn't believe the mate bond was genuine. Kayla kept her responses in her notebook brief and vague, discomfort growing with each interaction. These wolves had barely acknowledged her existence before tonight. Now they scrutinized her every gesture, searching for some explanation for Nicholas's choice. Relief came in the form of Diana, who swept in with all the authority of her former position. "Ladies, you'll have plenty of time to become acquainted with your new Luna. For now, I'm sure she'd appreciate some space." The females dispersed reluctantly, and Diana guided Kayla toward a quieter area. "You handled that well," she observed. "Luna requires both grace and strength. You have both." Kayla shook her head slightly, unconvinced. "You doubt yourself. That's natural. But remember, the moon goddess doesn't make mistakes with true mate bonds." Before Kayla could respond, a commotion near the edge of the gathering caught their attention. Victor's wolves were leaving, all of them, in a group, with Victor at their head. It was a deliberate slight, departing before the moon run without acknowledging the alpha. "He's planning something," Diana murmured, moving his pieces into position. Kayla watched Victor disappear into the trees, a chill running down her spine despite the warm night air. What was he planning, and how much did he truly know about her voice? Nicholas appeared at her side, his expression grim as he watched Victor's departure. "We should get you to the pack house. Now." Something in his tone alarmed her. Kayla glanced at Diana, who nodded in agreement. "I'll find Howard. Meet us there." Nicholas led Kayla away from the gathering,
taking a path that kept them in view of the pack but moved quickly toward the large stone building that served as the pack's central hub. Guards nodded respectfully as they approached, opening the heavy oak doors. Inside, the pack house was quiet, most members still at the gathering. Nicholas guided her through corridors lit by warm lamplight, up a grand staircase to the second floor. "These will be your rooms," he said, opening a door to reveal a spacious suite. "They connect to mine through that door, but it locks from both sides." He seemed eager to reassure her. "You'll have your privacy." Kayla stepped inside, taking in the elegant furnishings, the large windows overlooking the pack grounds, the adjoining bathroom and dressing area. It was more luxury than she had ever known in her simple life with Howard. "Is it suitable?" Nicholas asked, watching her reaction closely. She nodded, taking out her notebook. "It's beautiful. Thank you."
Kayla, he said hesitantly, we should talk about expectations. She tensed. Here it came, what he wanted from her voice. I know this arrangement wasn't your first choice, he continued carefully, that you agreed primarily for protection. I want you to know that I respect that. He paused. A true mate bond should develop naturally, with trust in time. I won't rush you. Surprise and relief washed through her. She hadn't expected such consideration. As for your voice, he added, that remains your choice. I won't ask you to use it unless you wish to. Kayla studied his face, searching for deception and finding none. She wrote, "Why, if you believe what I am, why wouldn't you want to use that power?" Nicholas's expression sobered. Because power that controls rather than guides isn't true strength. It's tyranny. He moved to the window, looking out at the pack grounds below. I've seen what hunger for power does to alphas, what it's done to Victor. I won't become that. She joined him at the window, writing, "Then what do you want from me?" He turned to face her, his eyes reflecting the lamplight. Partnership, balance, what the first Alpha and Luna had before fear and greed tore the bloodlines apart. He hesitated, then added softly, and perhaps, in time, something more personal between us. Though I find myself torn, my wolf recognizes you as mine, pulls me toward you with a strength I've never experienced. But my mind fears what I might do with my voice, she finished for him. He didn't deny it. Not just what you might do, but what others might force you to do. What would happen to the pack if someone like Victor controlled you, used your voice as a weapon? You think I'm dangerous? I think power is dangerous, he corrected gently. Any power, including my own. For years, I've carried the responsibility of the pack alone, made decisions that affected hundreds of lives. I've seen how easily power corrupts, how alphas like Victor become tyrants. Kayla considered this, then wrote, "So you fear I might control you, control the pack?" "Perhaps I did at first," Nicholas admitted, "but something has changed." "What?" "I've watched you these past days, how carefully you consider your actions, how you've maintained your silence, not for power, but to protect others." His voice softened. "My wolf was right to recognize you, not because your voice might strengthen our pack, but because your heart already does." The honesty of his admission touched Kayla deeply. In his vulnerability, she saw something she hadn't expected, an alpha willing to acknowledge fear, to question himself, to grow. "I would never use my voice to control you, or anyone, except to protect." He believed it. "That is why," he said, "and that's what frightens me most of all, because it means I'm putting my heart at risk, not just my authority." Before she could respond, a knock at the door interrupted the moment. Howard and Diana entered, followed by Marcus, Nicholas's beta. Victor's wolves have left the territory. All of them. Nicholas frowned. That's unusual. The moon run is about to begin. Indeed, Diana agreed, and concerning. Victor doesn't make impulsive decisions. Double the border patrols tonight. I want to know the moment they return, or if they're gathering allies. Marcus nodded and departed, leaving Nicholas to turn to Howard. Your things will be moved tomorrow. For tonight, a guest room has been prepared next door to Kayla's suite. Howard looked around the opulent room, then at his daughter. This is quite a change from our cabin. Change was inevitable. Victor forced our hand. A young female servant appeared at the door. Alpha, the pack is gathering for the moon run. Nicholas nodded. I'll be there shortly. He turned to Kayla. Are you sure you won't join us? The run would help solidify your position with the pack. Kayla hesitated, then wrote, Not tonight. Too much has changed too quickly. He understood, though disappointment shadowed his eyes. Guards will remain at the pack house while we're running. You'll be safe here. After he left, Howard turned to Kayla. Are you really sure about this? It's not too late to change your mind. It was too late the moment Victor identified what I am. Diana watched their exchange with sharp eyes. Your father is right to be cautious, but so are you to accept Nicholas's protection. Victor is dangerous, more than you know. What do you mean? Kayla asked. Victor has been obsessed with the voice legends for years. He's collected every scrap of information, every rumor. I believe he's trying to recreate the ancient binding ritual.
Howard paled. The one that would enslave a voice to an alpha's will? That's just a myth. Many myths have roots in truth, Diana said grimly, and Victor has resources beyond most alphas. His pack has grown wealthy through methods not always honorable. How would he bind me? Kayla wrote, fear gnawing at her. The ritual requires 3 elements: blood of the voice, a silver collar forged under the eclipsed moon, and words from the ancient texts. Diana's expression darkened. I believe he has the collar and the words. All he needs is you. Howard moved protectively closer to Kayla. Then we need to ensure he never gets near her. Precisely why she should be here, under Nicholas's protection, Diana agreed. The mate bond provides additional security. By pack law, another alpha cannot claim a mated female without killing her mate first. The brutality of the ancient laws made Kayla shudder. And if he challenges Nicholas directly? Alpha challenges are rare but possible, Diana admitted. Nicholas is strong, but Victor is cunning. We must be vigilant. Through the windows, they could hear the howls of the pack as the moon run began. Kayla moved to watch as wolves streamed from the gathering area into the forest, Nicholas's massive black form at their head. The sight stirred her wolf, making her restless to join them. You should rest, Howard suggested. It's been an overwhelming day. Kayla nodded, suddenly aware of her exhaustion. Everything had changed in the span of a few days. Her carefully constructed anonymity shattered, her future suddenly tied to the alpha, her secret balanced on the edge of exposure. After Howard and Diana left, Kayla explored her new rooms, running her fingers over fine fabrics and polished wood. The luxury felt foreign, uncomfortable. How could she be Luna? She'd spent her life avoiding attention, hiding her true nature. What did she know of leadership? As the night deepened, the sounds of the moon run faded into the distance. Kayla changed into night clothes that had been provided, silky garments far finer than anything she'd owned, and stood by the window watching the moon's journey across the sky. Her thoughts turned to Nicholas. He wasn't what she'd expected from an alpha. His consideration, his restraint, his promise not to use her voice, all suggested a man different from the power-hungry alphas of legend. Could she trust him, or was this another strategy to gain her confidence? A soft knock at her door pulled her from her thoughts. Expecting Howard, she opened it to find a young servant girl, perhaps 16, looking nervous. "Forgive me, Luna, but there's someone asking for you at the service entrance. Says it's urgent." Kayla frowned. Who would come looking for her now, in the middle of the night? She gestured for the girl to lead the way, following her down a back staircase to the kitchen area. "They're waiting outside," she explained, pointing to a small door that presumably led to the rear of the pack house. Suspicion flared in Kayla's mind. This felt wrong. She shook her head, backing away from the door. The girl's expression changed, hardening. "He said you might be reluctant." Before Kayla could react, the door burst open. 3 of Victor's wolves surged inside, moving with practiced efficiency. Kayla turned to flee, but the servant girl blocked her path, grabbing her arm with surprising strength. "Sorry, Luna. Alpha Pearson pays better than Nicholas." Kayla opened her mouth, instinct overriding 19 years of silence, but one of the wolves clamped a hand over her face before she could make a sound. "None of that voice. Alpha Pearson wants to hear you sing for him personally." They dragged her toward the door, Kayla fighting desperately against their grip. Her wolf clawed to the surface, demanding release, but they had her arms pinned. One of them produced a silver chain, the touch of it on her skin burning like fire, weakening her instantly. Silver, the ancient enemy of werewolves, especially those with old bloodlines. As they pulled her into the night, Kayla's last conscious thought was of Nicholas, running with the pack, unaware that his new mate was being stolen under his protection. Nicholas felt it first, a sudden searing pain that tore through his chest mid-run, driving him to his knees in the forest. Around him, the pack slowed in confusion, watching as their alpha shifted back to human form, gasping for breath. "Alpha!" Marcus approached cautiously. "What's wrong?" "Kayla," Nicholas managed, the bond between them, new but unmistakable, screaming and warning. "Something's happened. We need to get back to the pack house now."
The pack changed direction immediately, racing back through the moonlit forest with their alpha at the lead. Nicholas's mind filled with terrible possibilities. He'd known Victor wouldn't accept defeat easily, but to act so quickly, so boldly. The pack house came into view, seemingly peaceful in the moonlight, but as they approached, the scent of unfamiliar wolves hit Nicholas's nostrils. Victor's wolves had been here. He burst through the main doors, shifting back to human form as he ran toward Kayla's suite. The door stood open, the room empty. Howard emerged from his room at the commotion, his face paling at the sight of Nicholas's expression. "Where is she?" Howard demanded. "Victor," Nicholas growled, the word containing all his rage and fear. Guards and pack members flooded the hallway. One dragged forward a trembling young female, the servant girl who had been assigned to the kitchens. "She helped them," the guard reported. "Admitted it when we caught her trying to leave." Nicholas's eyes blazed as he approached the girl. "Where did they take her?" "I don't know," she stammered. "I just led her downstairs. Alpha Pearson promised me gold and a place in his pack if I helped." "If anything happens to her," Nicholas said, his voice deadly quiet, "your life is forfeit. Lock her up." As the guards dragged the girl away, Diana arrived, her face grim. The Eastern Border Guards were found unconscious, silver powder in their food. Victor planned this well. "How did he know?" Howard asked, anguish in his voice. "How did he move so quickly?" "He's been planning this for longer than we realized. The mate bond announcement forced his hand, but he was prepared." Nicholas paced the corridor, his wolf close to the surface. "We'll track them. They can't have gone far." "They'll be heading for Victor's territory," Marcus said. "If they cross that border—" "I don't care about territory lines," Nicholas snapped. "She's my mate. I'll follow her anywhere." Diana stepped forward. "Nicholas, think strategically. Victor wants a confrontation. He's counting on your rage. And he'll have it." "Along with a trap," Diana countered. "Victor wouldn't move this boldly without contingencies." Howard, who had been silent, suddenly spoke. "The binding ritual. Diana said Victor has been researching it. If that's his plan, he'll need specific conditions. The moonlight clearing, Diana said, understanding dawning. The ancient circle stones near the border. It's one of the few places with the right energy for such a ritual. Nicholas turned to Marcus. Gather our strongest fighters. Leave enough to guard the pack house, but I want our best with us. How much time do we have? Howard asked. The ritual must be completed before the moon sets. 3 hours, perhaps less. Then we move now, Nicholas decided. Howard, you'll remain here with the elders. No, Howard said firmly. She's my daughter. I'm coming with you. Nicholas studied the older wolf's determined expression. Very well, but stay close to me. As the pack mobilized, Nicholas retreated briefly to his quarters. From a locked chest, he removed something his father had given him years ago, a silver dagger with ancient symbols etched along the blade, one of the few weapons that could sever magical bonds, if the legends were true. When he returned, 20 of his strongest wolves waited in the courtyard, already shifted. Marcus had assembled a formidable force, each wolf battle-tested and loyal. We run silent. No howls to warn them of our approach. If Victor has initiated the binding ritual, any sound from Kayla could be used against her. Approach with caution. With a nod to Marcus, Nicholas shifted into his wolf form, massive and black as night, and led his pack into the forest, following the trail of Victor's wolves. Consciousness returned to Kayla in painful waves. The burning sensation of silver against her skin disoriented her, making it difficult to focus. She was being carried through the forest, slung over someone's shoulder like a prize kill. Around her, Victor's wolves moved silently, their path lit only by the full moon overhead. She's waking up, someone muttered. Good, came Victor's voice from somewhere ahead. We're almost there. Bring her. Kayla kept her eyes nearly closed, feigning greater weakness than she felt while assessing her situation. 6 wolves, including Victor. The silver chain was wrapped loosely around her wrists, enough to weaken but not incapacitate her completely. They were heading east toward Victor's territory, but not following the main paths. The wolf carrying her suddenly stopped. Alpha, we've reached the clearing. Perfect, Victor said. Set up the circle exactly as I showed you. We have less than 3 hours before moonset. Kayla was set down roughly at the base of a large stone, one of several arranged in a circle at the center of the clearing. Ancient symbols were carved into their surfaces, worn by centuries of weather but still visible in the moonlight. Victor approached, crouching to examine her. Finally awake, voice? Good. This ritual requires your participation. Kayla stared at him silently, conserving her strength. The silver weakened her body, but couldn't touch her greatest weapon, her voice. She had to choose the perfect moment. Still playing mute? Victor smiled coldly. No matter. You'll speak when the time comes. He gestured to his wolves. Secure her to the center stone and prepare the altar. 2 wolves dragged Kayla to the largest stone at the center of the clearing. They bound her wrists to metal rings embedded in the ancient rock, the silver chain burning against her skin. Around her, Victor's wolves moved with practiced efficiency, arranging items on a small stone altar, a silver bowl, various herbs, a wickedly sharp knife, and, most disturbingly, a silver collar edged with symbols similar to those on the stones. Do you know what this place is? Victor asked conversationally as he inspected their work. An ancient ritual site used before the Great War to bind supernatural creatures to an alpha's will. He approached, lifting the silver collar, particularly useful for controlling those with special voices. Kayla glared at him, pouring all her hatred into the look. Such spirit, Victor laughed. That will make the binding all the sweeter. Once completed, you'll still have your fire, your thoughts, your feelings, but your voice will obey only me. He leaned closer. Every command, every word, spoken only at my pleasure. Imagine the power. Every alpha in the region kneeling before us. One of his wolves approached cautiously. Alpha, we've caught Nicholas's scent. They're coming.
Perfect timing, Victor said. Let them come. By the time they reach us, the ritual will be complete. He approached Kayla with the knife. Now, shall we begin? I need only a few drops of your blood to start the binding. He held the blade against her forearm. This can be easy or painful. Your choice. Kayla met his gaze steadily, then deliberately turned her head away, denying him even the satisfaction of her fear. Have it your way, Victor shrugged, pressing the blade into her skin. The sharp pain as the knife cut her flesh was nothing compared to the burn of the silver. Kayla bit her lip to keep from crying out as Victor collected her blood in the silver bowl, mixing it with herbs and what looked like crushed moonstone. The blood of the voice, given under the full moon, he intoned, beginning the ritual. Bound to my will, bound to my word, bound to my purpose. Kayla closed her eyes, focusing on the mate bond she'd only just begun to feel. Nicholas was coming. She could sense his rage and determination through the tenuous connection between them. But would he arrive in time? Victor continued the ritual, his voice rising and falling in a language Kayla didn't recognize. The air around them seemed to thicken, the moonlight intensifying over the stone circle. Something ancient was responding to his words, power gathering in the clearing. And now, Victor said, switching back to English as he lifted the silver collar, the binding is prepared. All that remains is to place the collar and hear your voice bound to my command. He stepped toward Kayla, the collar open in his hands. Kayla knew that once it touched her skin, the ritual would be nearly complete. She had to act now.
Drawing on every ounce of strength, she kicked out, catching Victor in the stomach. He stumbled back, surprise flashing across his face before anger replaced it. "Restrain her!" he shouted to his wolves. Two rushed forward, pinning her legs while Victor recovered his composure. "That only makes this sweeter," he snarled, approaching again with the collar. Kayla took a deep breath. After 19 years of silence, her voice was her only weapon now. But what command would affect all of Victor's wolves at once? As Victor leaned in to secure the collar around her throat, Kayla met his gaze and spoke a single word, her voice clear and resonant with power. "Freeze!" The effect was immediate. Victor and his wolves went rigid, muscles locked in place, eyes wide with shock. The command wouldn't hold them long. Her untrained voice lacked the strength for a lasting effect, but it might buy enough time. With Victor immobilized inches from her face, Kayla strained against the weakened metal rings securing her chains. One gave way with a rusty crack, freeing her right hand. She reached for the knife Victor had dropped, slashing at the chain on her left wrist. The silver burned her palm as she gripped the knife, but determination pushed her through the pain. The second chain broke just as she felt her command beginning to weaken. Victor's eyes, still locked on hers, burned with rage and growing mobility. Kayla scrambled away from the stone, putting distance between herself and Victor as his wolf began to shake off her command. She needed to run, to hide until Nicholas arrived, but 6 wolves blocked any escape from the clearing. "Kill her!" Victor roared, fully mobile again. "The ritual is ruined if she escapes." His wolves lunged forward, but Kayla was ready. Using the knife, she slashed at the first wolf to reach her, drawing blood across his chest. The others circled warily, looking for an opening. "Take her alive if possible," Victor amended, reaching for the ritual bowl. "I can still complete the binding." Kayla knew she couldn't fight all of them. Her only hope was to use her voice again. But on whom? And with what command? A howl cut through the night, closer than expected. Nicholas's answering call came immediately after, followed by the sounds of fighting at the perimeter of the clearing. Hope surged through Kayla. The Northern Ridge wolves had arrived. Victor's wolves turned toward the sounds, momentarily distracted. Kayla seized the opportunity, bolting toward the trees. She made it halfway across the clearing before Victor tackled her from behind, sending them both crashing to the ground. "You're not going anywhere," he growled, pinning her with his weight. The silver collar gleamed in his hand. "One way or another, you will be mine." Kayla struggled beneath him, the knife knocked from her grasp. Victor was stronger, using his alpha power to hold her down as he brought the collar toward her neck. "Submit," he commanded, his alpha voice washing over her. But Kayla wasn't part of his pack. His alpha command held no sway over her. Instead of submitting, she gathered her strength and spoke again, her voice carrying the power of her bloodline. "Release me." Victor's grip loosened involuntarily, his body responding to the command despite his will fighting against it. It gave Kayla just enough space to twist free, rolling away from him as Nicholas burst into the clearing, in wolf form, massive and terrifying in his rage. He shifted mid-leap, landing between Kayla and Victor in human form, his eyes glowing with alpha power. "Victor Pearson, you have violated pack law, trespassed on my territory, and attempted to claim my mate. By ancient right, I challenge you for your pack and your life." Victor rose slowly, brushing dirt from his clothes with deliberate calm. "I accept your challenge, Nicholas Dixon. Winner takes all, including the voice." Around them, both packs had entered the clearing, forming a circle around the two alphas. Howard pushed through the wolves, rushing to Kayla's side. "Are you hurt?" he asked urgently, helping her to her feet. "The silver," she whispered, showing her burned wrists. "But I'll heal." Alpha challenges were brutal, primal affairs. No weapons, no interference, a fight to submission or death. Both men shifted into their wolf forms, Nicholas's massive black wolf against Victor's sleek gray form. They circled each other, hackles raised, teeth bared. Victor struck first, lunging for Nicholas's throat. Nicholas sidestepped, countering with a powerful bite to Victor's shoulder. The two wolves crashed together, a blur of fur and fangs as they fought for dominance. Blood soon stained the ground as wounds opened and healed, opened again. Victor fought with cunning, darting in for quick strikes before dancing away. Nicholas's style was more direct, using his superior size and strength to wear down his opponent.
As the fight continued, Kayla could feel the mate bond between her and Nicholas strengthening, resonating with each blow he landed, each wound he suffered. Without conscious thought, she moved closer to the fighting wolves, drawn by an instinct older than reason. "Kayla, stay back," Howard warned, trying to pull her away. But she couldn't. Something was building within her, a connection, a power, a certainty. When Victor managed to pin Nicholas momentarily, sinking his teeth into Nicholas's neck, Kayla felt the pain as if it were her own. "Stop!" The word tore from her throat, carrying all the power of her bloodline, all the authority of the Luna she was meant to be. Every wolf in the clearing froze, including the fighting alphas. Victor's jaws released Nicholas's neck as he turned toward Kayla's voice, his wolf responding instinctively to the command. In that moment of distraction, Nicholas surged upward, throwing Victor off balance. With devastating precision, he clamped his jaws around Victor's throat, applying just enough pressure to demonstrate his dominance without killing. Victor went limp, the universal sign of submission among wolves. The challenge was over. Nicholas had won. The gathered wolves watched in tense silence as Nicholas released Victor's throat and shifted back to human form. Victor followed suit, blood streaming from multiple wounds as he knelt in defeat. "By right of challenge, I claim your pack as my own. Your wolves now answer to me." Victor's wolves lowered their heads in submission, recognizing their new alpha. Pack law was absolute in this matter. A defeated alpha lost everything. "And my life?" Victor asked, his voice hollow with defeat. Nicholas's expression hardened. "Your life is forfeit by pack law, but your death will not be by my hand." He turned to Kayla. "The one you tried to enslave shall decide your fate." All eyes turned to Kayla, standing tall despite her injuries. The power of her voice still hummed in the air, recognized now by every wolf present. There would be no more hiding, no more silence. She approached Victor slowly, aware of the weight of the moment. The man who had tried to bind her to his will now knelt before her, awaiting her judgment. "Kill me and be done with it," Victor said bitterly. "It's what I would do in your place." "I know," Kayla replied, her voice clear in the night air. "That's why I won't." Murmurs of surprise rippled through the gathered wolves. Death would be too easy, Kayla continued. Instead, you will live without a pack, without status, without power. You will be Omega among Omegas, remembered only as the Alpha who failed. She looked at Nicholas. Exile. Beyond the Northern Territories, where no pack will accept him. Nicholas nodded his approval. So be it. Victor Pearson, you are hereby stripped of your Alpha status and exiled from all allied territories. If you return, your life is forfeit. Victor's face contorted with rage and humiliation. You think this is mercy? I would rather die. That's why it's fitting. Living powerless is your greatest fear. Face it, and perhaps one day you'll understand what true strength is. 4 of Nicholas's strongest wolves moved forward to restrain Victor, who offered no resistance, broken in spirit, if not in body. Take him to the northern border, see that he crosses, then guard the passage for 3 days. If he attempts to return, kill him. As Victor was led away, the remaining wolves of his former pack approached Nicholas cautiously, then knelt before him in formal submission. The Eastern Woods pack was now his to command, a significant expansion of Nicholas's already considerable territory. Howard reached Kayla's side, supporting her as the adrenaline of the confrontation began to fade, leaving exhaustion in its wake. You spoke, he said softly. After all these years, you used the voice. I had no choice. He would have killed Nicholas. Nicholas approached them, his wounds already healing with Alpha speed. Your voice saved more than just me, he said. It prevented what could have been a bloody pack war. Using her voice after so many years, combined with the silver burns and emotional trauma, had left her dangerously weak. Nicholas, she whispered, her voice barely audible. I'm sorry. I couldn't hold back anymore. He was going to kill you. Shh. He soothed, carrying her through the circle of wolves toward home. Save your strength. Are you afraid of me now? She asked, needing to know. Now that you've heard what my voice can do? Nicholas stopped walking, looking down at her with an intensity that took her breath away. Slowly, deliberately, he knelt on the forest floor, still holding her in his arms.
Never, he said, loud enough for all to hear. I kneel not in fear, but in honor. Around them, the pack watched in stunned silence. No alpha in living memory had knelt before another wolf, not even a mate. The gesture spoke volumes. A recognition of equal power, of partnership, rather than dominance. Your voice is not a weapon to be wielded or feared, Nicholas continued, his eyes never leaving hers. It is part of your soul, as essential as the heart that beats within you. And I claim all of you, Kayla, not just the parts that are convenient or controlled, but everything you are. Tears filled Kayla's eyes at his words, at the acceptance she'd never dared hope for. In the old stories, Diana said, stepping forward to address the gathered wolves, when the first alpha recognized the first voice, he knelt just as Nicholas has done, not in submission, but in acknowledgement that true strength comes from balance. The alpha and the voice, 2 halves of leadership, each respecting the other's gifts. Nicholas rose, Kayla still cradled against him. Let all wolves know, he declared, that the Luna's voice is her own to command. Any who would seek to control it or silence it stand against me and against the will of the moon goddess herself. As they continued their journey home, Kayla rested her head against Nicholas's chest, the steady beat of his heart, a comfort she'd never known. Others might have seen her voice as a curse to be controlled or exploited, but Nicholas saw it as an integral part of who she was, something to be respected, protected, and honored. For the first time in her life, Kayla felt truly seen. Not for what her voice could do, but for who she was at her core. It was a gift beyond measure. Dawn broke over the Northern Ridge territory, painting the sky in hues of pink and gold as the pack returned to their grounds. Word of the night's events had spread quickly. The abduction, the Alpha Challenge, the revelation of Kayla's voice. By the time they reached the pack house, wolves gathered in the courtyard, eager for confirmation of the rumors. Nicholas addressed them briefly, confirming his victory over Victor and the absorption of the Eastern Woods pack into their territory. Of Kayla's voice, he said only that their Luna possessed gifts blessed by the moon goddess herself, gifts that would strengthen and protect the pack. The formal explanations would come later. For now, Kayla needed rest and healing. The silver burns on her wrists and hands required treatment, and the emotional toll of the night's events weighed heavily on her. In her suite, Maya the healer applied soothing ointments to the burns, while Howard sat nearby, still processing the reality of hearing her daughter's voice after 19 years of silence. "The silver damages are superficial," Maya assured them. "It will heal completely in a few days." "Thank you," Kayla said softly, the simple phrase still feeling foreign on her tongue. Maya's hands paused briefly at the sound of Kayla's voice, but she continued her work with professional composure. "I'll leave additional ointment. Apply morning and night." After the healer left, Howard moved to sit beside Kayla on the edge of the bed. "How does it feel? Using the voice after so long," he asked. "Strange, like using a muscle that's been immobile for years." She looked down at her bandaged wrists. "I'm still not sure it was the right decision." "You saved Nicholas's life," Howard reminded her, "and prevented a war between the packs. And exposed what I am to everyone. There's no going back now." Howard took her hand carefully, avoiding the burns. "Perhaps that's for the best. Living in fear and hiding, it's no way to exist. Your mother wanted to protect you, but I think she would agree that you can't hide forever." A knock at the door interrupted them. Nicholas entered, freshly showered and changed, though fatigue lingered in his eyes. "How are you feeling?" he asked Kayla. "Better," she replied, still conscious of every word. "The burns will heal." Howard stood. "I'll leave you two to talk." After he left, Nicholas took the seat beside Kayla. "The pack is curious, of course. Questions are circulating. What have you told them?" "Only that you have a gift from the moon goddess. The details can wait until you're ready." He hesitated. "Kayla, about your voice. What you did in the clearing. I didn't know I could affect so many wolves at once. I've never really tested my abilities." "It was remarkable. Every wolf, regardless of pack loyalty, responded to your command." Fear flickered across Kayla's face. "Are they afraid of me now?"
"Some, perhaps," he acknowledged. "But many see it as confirmation that you were meant to be Luna, that the moon goddess herself has blessed our union." He reached for her hand, careful of the bandages. "What matters is what you choose to do with your voice now." Kayla considered this. After 19 years of silence, the possibilities seemed overwhelming. "I don't know," she admitted. "I've spent my whole life hiding what I am. I don't know how to be this." "You don't have to decide everything at once," Nicholas assured her. "Take time to heal, to adjust. The pack will follow your lead." His consideration touched her deeply. Where Victor had seen only a weapon to control, Nicholas saw a person finding her way. "Thank you," she said softly. "For what?" "For not seeing me as something to use. For giving me a choice." Nicholas's expression softened. "That's what true mates do. They support each other's strength without trying to control it." The mate bond between them pulsed gently, growing stronger with each shared moment. Kayla could feel it now, a warm connection linking them together. "Rest," Nicholas said, rising. "There will be a council meeting this afternoon to discuss the Eastern Woods territory integration, but your presence isn't required unless you wish to attend." After he left, Kayla lay back against the pillows, exhaustion finally claiming her. As she drifted towards sleep, she realized something significant had changed beyond just her secret being revealed. For the first time in her life, she felt the beginnings of belonging, not the careful invisibility she'd cultivated for so long, but true acceptance. The following days brought rapid changes to the Northern Ridge Pack. Wolves from the Eastern Woods Territory arrived in groups to pledge loyalty to their new alpha. The pack expanded almost overnight, bringing new challenges in accommodation, resource distribution, and integration. Through it all, Kayla observed from a careful distance, attending council meetings but speaking rarely. When she did speak, her words carried weight, not from any supernatural power, but from the thoughtfulness behind them. Nicholas consulted her privately on many decisions, valuing her perspective. A week after Victor's defeat, Diana suggested it was time for Kayla to address the pack formally. They need to hear from their Luna, to understand that your voice is a blessing, not something to fear. I'm not sure I'm ready, Kayla admitted. You'll never feel entirely ready for leadership, but sometimes we must step into roles larger than ourselves. That evening, Nicholas called a pack gathering in the main hall of the pack house. Wolves from both territories filled the space, curiosity evident in their expressions as Kayla took her place beside Nicholas at the front of the room. Many of you have heard rumors about recent events, about Victor's challenge, about the integration of our packs, and about your Luna's unique abilities. He turned to Kayla. I believe these matters are best addressed directly. Kayla stepped forward, her heart pounding. The room fell silent, every eye fixed on her. For 19 years, she had avoided exactly this: attention, scrutiny, exposure, but there was no turning back now. For those of you who haven't heard me speak before, she began, her voice clear and steady, despite her nerves, that's because until recently, I chose not to. For 19 years, I lived in silence, hiding a truth about myself that I feared would bring danger. Murmurs rippled through the crowd, quickly hushed as she continued. I am a descendant of the Northern Moon Pack, carriers of a rare ability called the Voice. My ancestors could command wolves with their words, a power that made them both revered and hunted. She paused, letting this sink in. When Victor discovered what I was, he attempted to bind that power to his will through ancient magic. He failed. The Voice is real? Someone called from the crowd. Not just a legend? It's real, Kayla confirmed, but it is not what the stories may have led you to believe. It cannot control minds or hearts, only actions, and only temporarily. And like any power, its true strength lies in how it's used. She looked around the room, meeting the gazes of her pack members directly. I know some of you may fear what this means. Others may wonder if I will use this ability to control the pack. I want to be clear. I will not. The Voice is a responsibility, not a right to command. Diana stepped forward to stand beside her. In the oldest histories, before fear corrupted understanding, the Voice was considered a balance to alpha power. Where the alpha led with strength, the Voice led with wisdom. Together, they created harmony in the pack. That balance was lost centuries ago, when the bloodlines separated and eventually the Voice line was hunted to near extinction. But the Moon Goddess has seen fit to restore that balance, bringing our bloodlines together again. Kayla nodded. I am still learning what it means to be Luna, to use my voice after so many years of silence. I ask for your patience and your trust as we navigate this new chapter together.
A young wolf from the Eastern Woods Pack raised her hand hesitantly. Can we hear it? The voice, I mean. Uncertain glances passed through the crowd. Would a demonstration reassure them or increase their fear? Kayla considered the request carefully. I understand your curiosity, she said, but the Voice is not a performance or a trick. It carries responsibility. She paused, then added, however, I can demonstrate something else. The normal voice I've kept hidden for too long. The voice I hope to use to guide and support this pack, alongside your alpha. She moved to the center of the room and began to sing, a simple pack lullaby that most wolves would recognize from childhood.
Her voice, unenhanced by any supernatural power, filled the hall with clear, sweet notes. The melody spoke of moonlight and protection, of pack bonds and eternal cycles. As she sang, tension visibly drained from the room. Wolves relaxed, some closing their eyes to better appreciate the music. This was not the fearsome voice of legend, but something human and connecting. When the last note faded, silence held for a moment, before applause broke out, genuine and enthusiastic. "Our Luna has found her voice," Diana announced, pride evident in her tone, "and we are blessed to hear it." The gathering transitioned into a celebration after that, with food and drink served as pack members mingled. Many approached Kayla personally, offering congratulations or simply introducing themselves. The fear she had anticipated was largely absent, replaced by curiosity and cautious acceptance. Howard watched from nearby, joy and pride warring with the bittersweet knowledge that things would never be the same. His daughter had emerged from hiding, stepping into a destiny larger than either of them had imagined. "You raised her well," Nicholas said, joining him. "Her strength and compassion, those come from you." Howard shook his head slightly. "I just kept her safe. The rest is who she always was." Across the room, Kayla was deep in conversation with a group of females from the Eastern Woods Pack, her hands moving expressively as she spoke. For someone who had communicated primarily through writing for most of her life, she was adapting quickly to verbal expression. "She'll make an extraordinary Luna," Howard observed. "She already is," Nicholas replied. As weeks passed, the two territories truly began to merge into one cohesive pack. Under Kayla's guidance, integration happened with minimal conflict. Her experience living between worlds, neither fully Omega nor acknowledged as something more, gave her insight into the challenges facing wolves who felt displaced or uncertain of their place. She established regular forums where any pack member could bring concerns directly to leadership, breaking down the rigid hierarchy that had sometimes prevented important issues from reaching alpha attention. Nicholas supported these innovations, recognizing how they strengthened pack bonds. 1 month after Victor's defeat, on the night of another full moon, Nicholas suggested they visit a special place together. "There's something I want to show you," he said, as they walked through the forest, moonlight filtering through the canopy above. The path led to a small clearing with a single ancient oak at its center. The tree was massive, its trunk wider than 3 wolves standing together, its branches spreading like protective arms over the clearing. "The claiming tree," Kayla said, recognizing it from pack lore. For centuries, alphas had carved their mates' names into its bark, a tradition older than any living wolf. "Yes," Nicholas confirmed. "Every true mate pair in our pack's history has been immortalized here." He led her closer, pointing to various names etched into the ancient bark. "My parents, my grandparents, generations of Dixons and their chosen Lunas." Kayla ran her fingers over the carved names, feeling the history beneath her touch. "It's beautiful." "There's more," Nicholas said, guiding her around to the oldest part of the trunk. There, nearly hidden by the tree's natural growth, was a carving so ancient the bark had almost consumed it. Alaric Dixon and Aria Moonwhisper. Kayla's breath caught. "The first alpha and the first voice," Nicholas finished. "Your ancestor." "How is this possible?" Kayla whispered. "This tree must be centuries old." "Nearly 1,000 years," Nicholas confirmed. The first pair planted it to mark the unification of the packs. It said that their spirits still protect it and all the mates whose names it bears. He reached into his pocket and withdrew a small carved knife. Traditionally, the alpha carves both names at the first full moon after the mate bond is acknowledged. He hesitated. "If you're willing." The gesture moved Kayla deeply. This wasn't just tradition, it was acceptance, permanence, belonging. After a lifetime of hiding, Nicholas was offering to literally carve her place in pack history. "I would be honored," she said softly.
But as Nicholas moved toward the tree, she placed her hand on his arm. "Wait, I'd like to do it differently." He looked at her questioningly. "You carve my name," she suggested, "and I'll carve yours. Equal partners, equal commitment." Nicholas's expression softened with understanding. Perfect. They took turns with the knife, each carefully etching the other's name into the living wood. When they finished, Nicholas Dixon and Kayla Moonwhisper stood fresh against the ancient bark, the latest chapter in a story centuries in the making. "Moonwhisper?" Kayla asked, noticing his choice. "It feels right," Nicholas explained, "honoring the bloodline you hid for so long." Kayla nodded. Then he took her hands in his. "Kayla Moonwhisper," he said formally. "On this full moon night, before the sacred tree and the spirits of our ancestors, I offer you my heart, my protection, and my loyalty. Will you accept me as your mate, now and for all moons to come?" The traditional mating vow, spoken under the full moon's light, carried weight beyond ordinary words. This was the final step, the verbal commitment that would complete the bond between them. Kayla's heart swelled with emotion as she responded. "Nicholas Dixon, I accept your heart and offer mine in return. I accept your protection and offer my strength to stand beside you. I accept your loyalty and promise mine in turn. Before the sacred tree and the spirits of our ancestors, I claim you as my mate, now and for all moons to come." As the last words left her lips, the mate bond between them flared brightly, no longer a tentative connection, but a solid, unbreakable link. Kayla gasped at the sensation, warmth and certainty and belonging flowing between them. Nicholas pulled her closer, one hand gently cupping her face. "May I?" he asked softly. In answer, Kayla rose on her toes to meet his lips with hers. Their first kiss was gentle, a seal on the promises they'd made, but quickly deepened as the mate bond urged them closer. When they finally parted, both were breathing heavily, eyes bright with emotion and desire. "I never thought I'd find you," Nicholas admitted, his forehead resting against hers. "A true mate, someone who balances me, challenges me, completes me. I never thought I'd be found, or that being found would feel like freedom rather than capture." Above them, the full moon bathed the clearing in silver light, blessing their union as it had blessed the first pair centuries before. Around them, the forest seemed to hold its breath, witnessing the reunion of bloodlines long separated. "What happens now?" Kayla asked. Nicholas smiled. "Now we build something new together, not just for ourselves, but for the pack, the voice and the alpha in balance again." "Balance," Kayla repeated, liking the sound of it. "Not dominance, not submission, but partnership. I think our ancestors would approve." Nicholas stepped back, still holding her hands in his. "There's one more tradition, if you're willing." "What's that?" "The mating run," he explained. Under the full moon, the newly bonded pair leads the pack in a celebratory run through the territory. Kayla hesitated. While she'd grown more comfortable using her voice in the past weeks, she'd still avoided shifting in public. Her wolf form, smaller than most, with unusual silver-gray fur, was another marker of her bloodline, another aspect of herself she'd hidden. "The pack should see all of you," Nicholas said gently, understanding her hesitation. "Your wolf is beautiful, Kayla, part of who you are." She took a deep breath, finding courage in his confidence. "All right, let's run." They returned to the pack grounds where wolves had gathered for the monthly full moon celebration. Word spread quickly that the Alpha and Luna would lead a mating run, and excitement built as pack members prepared to join. Howard approached as Kayla and Nicholas reached the edge of the gathering. "It's official then?" he asked, noting the change in their bond. "It is," Kayla confirmed, embracing him. "Thank you for everything, Howard, for protecting me all these years, for being my father in all the ways that matter." Howard's eyes glistened with emotion. "Seeing you step into your true self is all the thanks I need." He glanced at Nicholas. "Take care of each other." Nicholas nodded solemnly. "Always." As the moon reached its apex, Nicholas addressed the gathered pack. "Tonight, your Luna and I have completed our mate bond under the witness of the sacred tree.
we invite you to join us in celebration, a run to mark new beginnings for us all. Cheers and howls of approval rose from the crowd. Kayla stepped forward, standing tall beside Nicholas. "Before we begin," she said, her voice carrying clearly, "I want to thank all of you for your acceptance these past weeks. For generations, the Voice bloodline lived in fear, in hiding. Thanks to you, to this pack, that ends with me." More cheers erupted, wolves stamping their feet and howling their approval. The integration of the two territories had not been without challenges, but under Kayla and Nicholas's leadership, a new, stronger pack was emerging. "Now," Nicholas announced, "let us run under the moon goddess's light." He shifted first, his massive black wolf form commanding immediate respect. Then all eyes turned to Kayla, many never having seen her wolf form before. Taking a deep breath, Kayla let her transformation flow. Where once she had shifted quietly, alone in the forest, now she embraced the change before her entire pack. Her human form gave way to the sleek, silver-gray wolf that had been her secret for so long. Gasps and murmurs spread through the crowd. Her wolf was unmistakably unique, smaller than most females, but with a distinctive silver coat that seemed to capture and reflect the moonlight. The mark of the northern moon bloodline, impossible to hide in this form. Nicholas's black wolf moved to stand beside her, his massive form providing striking contrast to her silver one. Together they made a powerful image, darkness and light, strength and grace, Alpha and Luna in perfect balance. With a joyful howl that Kayla echoed, Nicholas led the way into the forest. Behind them, the pack shifted and followed, a river of wolves flowing through the moonlit trees. They ran together through territory that now stretched farther than ever before, from the western mountains to the eastern valleys. Wolves who had once been enemies now ran as packmates, united under new leadership that promised balance rather than dominance. For Kayla, the run was a revelation. After years of caution and restraint, the freedom to simply be, to run with her mate, to howl without fear, to exist fully as herself felt like breaking through chains she hadn't fully recognized. Near a crystal-clear lake at the heart of their territory, Nicholas slowed, allowing the pack to spread out and enjoy the night while he and Kayla found a quiet spot on a rocky outcropping overlooking the water. They shifted back to human form, sitting close together as the moon reflected on the lake's surface below. "Happy?" he asked, his arm around her shoulders. "More than I thought possible. A month ago I was hiding in shadows, terrified of discovery. Now you're where you belong, where your ancestors always meant you to be." She leaned against him, comfortable in the silence between them. The mate bond hummed contentedly, a constant reminder of their connection. "There will be challenges ahead. Victor may be gone, but rumors of the Voice's return will spread. Other packs may come, some seeking alliance, others perhaps with less peaceful intentions." "Let them come," she said with quiet confidence. "We're stronger together than either of us would be alone." He smiled, pressing a kiss to her temple. The perfect balance. Below them, their pack enjoyed the full moon's blessing, playing, hunting, strengthening bonds both old and new. The sight filled Kayla with pride and purpose. This was what her voice was meant for, not to command through supernatural power, but to guide through wisdom and compassion. "I've been thinking about starting a history project, recording the true story of the Voice bloodline, separating fact from legend." "An excellent idea," Nicholas agreed. "Knowledge preserved is power protected." "And I want to establish formal education for young wolves about the old bloodlines, the ancient powers." She turned to look at him directly. "If there are others out there with rare abilities, hiding as I did, they should know they have a place here, that they don't have to live in fear." Nicholas's expression softened with pride. "You'll make an extraordinary Luna." "We'll make an extraordinary team," she corrected gently. As the night deepened around them, they rejoined the pack for the run back to their home grounds. Wolves from both former territories ran together now, distinctions blurring as new bonds formed. At the edge of the main clearing, before they emerged from the forest, Nicholas paused, turning to Kayla in wolf form. His amber eyes held a question she understood without words. In answer, she threw back her head and howled, a clear, pure sound that carried her joy and her power across the territory. Her voice, no longer hidden, no longer feared, rose to the moon that had blessed her bloodlines centuries ago. Nicholas's deeper howl joined hers, then another and another, as the entire pack added their voices to the chorus. The harmony they created spoke of unity, of strength, of a future built on balance rather than dominance. As the howls faded into the night, Kayla felt a profound sense of rightness settle over her. For 19 years, she had lived in the shadows, her voice silenced by fear. Now she stood in the moonlight, her voice joining with others, her strength acknowledged rather than hidden. She was Kayla Moonwhisper, descendant of the Northern Moon Pack, carrier of the voice, and Luna to the strongest pack in the territories, no longer hiding, no longer afraid. Finally, after 19 years of silence, she had found her voice, and with it, her place in the world.